This country is in a revolution. They're sick and tired of what they're getting, and I happen to be lucky enough to be part of it.
It has been said that when in the course of human events, an oppression so revolts its subject that it becomes necessary to alter or abolish the means of that tyranny. Is it that time when our Bill of Rights is defiled every day? When our adventures abroad threaten our security at home? When the Federal Reserve keeps our free nation enslaved by debt? When the people of the world tremble under the thumb of corporate imperialism? And now, our nation is drifting dangerously from freedom to fascism. So I have to ask, is it time?
And now, from the luxurious Albino Raccoon recording studios located in the Midwestern heart of America, it's the Last Voice for Liberty Network. And here is your host, The Mouth.
Greetings and salutations to all my fellow patriots. It is time. The Last Voice for Liberty Network back on the air. I am, of course, your host, The Mouth, laughing, scratching, right at you folks. I want to talk to you a bit today. You've got this gentleman, Chris Dorner, who's supposedly taking it to the cops. So, it depends on who you listen to, really. If you read the first 4 or 5 paragraphs of his manifesto in which he outlines why he's doing this, not the added on rest of the crap where they start talking about who he endorses and who he doesn't endorse, and which candidate he likes and which newscaster he likes. So that's all that shit's irrelevant, really. The first paragraphs where he announces, the names and places and cites cases and points of corruption and how it has negatively been affected and dealt with by the LAPD towards him in particular, because, whatever perspective is he going to give you besides his own. It's hard to say whether or not this guy is in fact even a criminal, or whether or not he is in fact what a lot of people are calling him, the Dark Knight, a hero, someone who's finally standing up to the racism and corruption with the only sense that the LAPD seems to understand, which is violence. What happened? He goes out, he shoots 3 people. So what does the LAPD do? They go shoot 3 more people. They've been shooting up people's trucks for weeks. People are wondering what it leads to the question, if the police are there to serve and protect, how come they're not? Well, in 2005, folks, the Supreme Court ruled that the police do not have a constitutional duty to protect a person from harm. Even a woman who had obtained a court-issued protective order against a violent husband, making an arrest mandatory for a violation. They do not have a constitutional duty to protect us from anything. Now, this decision, like I said, folks, this came in 2005. I'm sure none of you have heard it. The decision, with an opinion by Justice Antonin Scalia, and dissents from Justices John Paul Stephenson and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, overturned a ruling by a federal appeals court in Colorado. Now, the appeals court had permitted the lawsuit to proceed against the Colorado town, Castle Rock, for Castle Rock. Isn't that like the name of the town in every book that Stephen King ever wrote? Okay, anyway. For the failure of police to respond to a woman's pleas for help after her estranged husband violated a protective order by kidnapping their 3 young daughters, whom he eventually killed. Now, for hours on the night of June 22nd, 1999, Jessica Gonzalez tried to get the Castle Rock police to find and arrest her estranged husband, Simon Gonzalez, who was under a court order to stay 100 yards away from the house. He had taken the children, ages 7, 9, and 10, as they played outside, and he later called his wife to tell her that he had the girls at an amusement park in Denver. Ms. Gonzalez conveyed the information to the police, but they failed to act before Mr. Gonzalez arrived at the police station hours later, firing a gun with the body of the girls in the back of his truck. Now, the police killed him at the scene. The theory of the lawsuit Ms. Gonzalez filed in federal district court in Denver was that Colorado law had given her an enforceable right to protection by instructing the police on the court order that you shall arrest or issue a warrant for the arrest of the violator. She argued that the order gave her a property interest within the meaning of the 14th Amendment's due process guarantee, which prohibits the deprivation of property without due process. Okay? Now, the district court and the panel of the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit dismissed her suit, but the full appeals court reinstated it, and the town appealed. The Supreme Court's precedents made the appellate ruling a challenging one for Ms. Gonzalez and her lawyers to sustain. Now, a 1989 decision, DeShaney versus Winnebago County, held that the failure by county social service workers to protect a young boy from a beating by his father did not breach any substantive constitutional duty. By framing her case as one of process rather than substance, Ms. Gonzalez and her lawyers hoped to find a way around that precedent. But the majority on Monday saw little difference between the earlier case and this one, in Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, number 04-278. Okay, Ms. Gonzalez did not have a property interest in enforcing the restraining order, Justice Scalia said, adding that such a right would not, of course, resemble any traditional conception of property. Now, although the protective order did mandate an arrest, or an arrest warrant, in so many words, Justice Scalia said a well-established tradition of police discretion has long coexisted with apparently mandatory arrest statutes.
Will allow me to retort.
Justices Stevens and Ginsburg, in their dissenting opinion, said it is clear that the elimination of police discretion was integral to Colorado and its fellow states' solution to the problem of underenforcement in domestic violence cases. Colorado was one of 24 states that, in response to an increased attention to the domestic problem of domestic violence during the 1990s, made arrest mandatory for violating protective orders. The court fails to come to terms with the wave of domestic violence statutes that provides the crucial context for understanding Colorado's law, these dissenting justices said. Now, organizations concerned with domestic violence had watched the case closely and expressed disappointment of the outcome. Fernando Laguarda, or whatever, counsel for the National Network to End Domestic Violence, said in a statement that Congress and the states should now act to give greater protection. One more thing where they're trying to get the government to get more involved. Now, in another ruling on Monday, the court rebuked the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit in Cincinnati for having reopened a death penalty appeal on the basis of newly discovered evidence after the ruling had become final. This 5-4 decision of Bell v. Thompson, number 04-514, came in response to an appeal by the state of Tennessee after the Sixth Circuit removed a convicted murderer, Gregory Thompson, who was on death row. Now, after his conviction and the failure of his appeals in state court, Mr. Thompson, with new lawyers, had gone to federal district court seeking a writ of habeas corpus on the grounds that his initial lawyers had been constitutionally inadequate. The new lawyers obtained a consultation with the psychologist who diagnosed Mr. Thompson as schizophrenic. But the psychologist's report was not included in the file of the habeas corpus petition in district court, which denied the petition. It was not until the Sixth Circuit and the Supreme Court had also denied his petition, making the case final, that the Sixth Circuit reopened the case, finding that the report was crucial evidence that should have been considered. In overturning that ruling in an opinion by Justice Anthony M. Kennedy, the majority said the appeals court had abused its discretion in an extraordinary departure from standard appellate procedures. Chief Justice William H. Rehnquist and Justice Scalia, Clarence Thomas, and Sandra Day O'Connor joined in on that opinion. In a dissenting opinion, however, Justice Stephen J. Breyer said the majority had relied on the rules to the exclusion of justice. Judges need a degree of discretion, thereby providing oil for the rule-based gears, he said. Justices Stevens, Ginsburg, and David H. Souter joined in with that dissent, folks. The point of all this is they're telling us that the police don't have a constitutional duty to come and protect you, which is true. There's nothing in there to say the police have to come and protect us.
Bears, rhinos, and shit.
10-6-9er, 10-6-9er, we got whores in the city. We need backup now.
So why are we having it? They're hired by our state and local government. Police departments are registered as non-profit corporations. Did you know that?
No, I didn't hear this.
I'm fairly sure that a lot of taxpayers are well aware. The national media isn't going to inform you on this.
Could you get your daddy on the phone?
It's like this, folks. Local police departments across the nation are incorporated as specialized nonprofits. Most local police departments are known to the Secretary of State in their respective state as an association, which gives the impression to the average citizen that this is a union. Now, however, folks, it is not the case.
What?
The local police departments are contracted by the city council to perform police services and securitize the city they're hired in. This is the exchange of a local government hiring a private security firm to stabilize the local population and generate revenue for the city through tickets, arrests, and recording infractions. However, this does not include upholding local laws, as the county sheriff's office is elected to take charge of. All right. The problem with this system being that the local police departments, or being corporations, are subject to corporate law. And corporations fall into dissolution, i.e., the termination of a corporation, for various reasons quite often. When it's the local police department that dissolves, this becomes a question of legal authority over the citizens by the hired private security firm known as the local police department. Corporations that dissolved are not allowed by law to conduct business.
You understand this?
These same rules apply to the local police department that is actually a corporation hired by the government or city council to perform police duties. For example, in the state of Oregon, over 12 local police departments are in dissolution. On the Secretary of State website, when a local police department is dissolved, it is classified as INA, or inactive. This includes police departments in the following cities of Beaverton, Canby, Charleston, Eugene, Gresham, King County, Lake Oswego, Lebanon, Portland, Sherwood, and Weston. According to corporate law, if a corporation dissolves, it must withdraw as a business entity. That means that once the LAPD, the local police department, is dissolved, they cannot continue to perform police services for the city in which they're hired. In fact, and this should be brought to the public attention, it might be commonplace, as it is in the state of Oregon, that police departments are in dissolution and not legally allowed to conduct police services.
You stole from my kid,
who was fixing to betray us.
You didn't know that at the time.
It could be.
So I borrowed it till I did know.
That don't make no sense.
Pete, it's a fool who looks for logic in the...
They lack the legal authority as a dissolved corporation, folks. It also stands that the local governments that are privy to this information would be involved in not only egregious corruption, but are knowingly misleading the citizens of their towns and their cities. Once the local police department is dissolved, from that date of dissolution, any arrest, ticket, or police service performed is now an illegal act. It's tantamount to a citizen impersonating a police officer, which is has serious legal ramifications. Okay? Should citizens become aware of this fact in their city, that their local police department is a corporation that is dissolved and is continuing to operate as if they have the legal right to do so, there would be justified legal recourse for every citizen who had been arrested, jailed, forced to pay a ticket of any kind, and forced to appear in municipal court under those circumstances. This would include court costs, attorney's fees, and fees attributed by the court.
The mother lode.
Yeah! In 2012, folks, Louis F. Quijas, Assistant Secretary of the Office for State and Local Law Enforcement, or OSLE, we'll say it, it's O-S-L-L-E, but we'll call it OSLE, for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, explained that the purpose of OSLE as a front office that provided coordination and partnership with state, local, and tribal law enforcement. The OSLE was recommended by the 9/11 Commission. It was created to lead the coordination of DHS-wide policies relating to state, local, and tribal law enforcement's role in preventing acts of terrorism and to serve as a primary liaison between
Don't tell anybody I'll kill you!
Department of Homeland Security, and non-federal law enforcement. Intelligence is actually disseminated through OCEL to LAPDs, or non-federal law enforcement partners, to keep information flowing through initiatives such as the If You See Something, Say Something, the Blue Campaign, the Nationwide Suspicious Activities Reporting Initiative, and the SAR, and the department's efforts in countering violent terrorism. OCEL consistently works with local police departments on education, actionable information, operations, and intelligence for the purpose of their part in the operations of the DHS with regard to keeping our homeland safe. Okay. OCEL also works as a liaison between the local police departments to maintain DHS leadership and consideration of issues, concerns, and requirements of the state. Local and tribal law enforcement during budget and grant policy and developmental processes. They want to keep themselves in charge. FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, folks, everybody's friend of yours and mine. This is where it starts to get a little bit interesting. Upholds relationships with local police department for the purposes and participation with the National Preparedness Grant Program that began this year. That ties in directly with Obama's executive orders, FEMA executive orders for the national preparedness. Now, to ensure that local police departments continue to meet the requirements of training from DHS, officers regularly attend the DHS Federal Law Enforcement Training Centers in Glencoe, Georgia. Local police departments are focused through OCEL and DHS to remain vigilant and protect our communities from all threats, whether terrorism or other criminal activities, as DHS expands its control over local law enforcement and the communities that they oversee. They're trying to clear it up and take complete control over by the DHS, if that isn't obvious. Have you seen how they've been arming the police officers in cities? They're armed like they're ready for tactical warfare. Because DHS is expanding and wants to take control of all local law enforcement to make it a giant police state. That's what they're after. That's their end game. Why do you think they're so involved with local law enforcement this way? They're telling them what information they can have.
Why so serious?
They're feeding them information. They're telling them how to train people. They're telling them who's going to be in charge. When you start making policy, you better make sure that we get cued in on.
I am the wellspring from which you flow.
I am the Senate.
Hello. We're the Department of Homeland Security. Bend over and take it in the ass. Now, stated in the DHS directive from the Office for State and Local Law Enforcement, the Assistant Secretary for OCEL has said that the primary official responsible for leading the coordination of department-wide policies related to the role of state, tribal, and local law enforcement in preventing, preparing for, protecting against, and responding to natural disasters, acts of terrorism, and other man-made disasters within the U.S. This directive also sets guidelines of advocacy for DHS by the local police departments. Authorization of the Department of Homeland Security to take over local police departments is given in Title VI of the United States Code, Section 607, Terrorism Prevention. What did I just say? In 2008, the Bureau of Justice Statistics stated that local police departments make up more than 2/3 of the 18,000 state and local law enforcement agencies in the U.S., which translates to an estimated 12,501 law enforcement agencies. Now, of those local police departments, there are more than 461,000 sworn officers.
Hey, hang on, you guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, folks, that's 500,000. That's more people than were in the Army last year.
No, sir. I didn't like it.
That's true. Last year, President Obama signed an executive order that created the White House Homeland Security Partnership Council and Steering Committee, which tied DHS to local partnerships, federal and private institutions to address Homeland Security challenges. The members of the steering committee include the Department of State, Department of the U.S. Treasury, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of Transportation, Department of Veterans Affairs, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, your friend of mine, the FBI. In 2011, folks, Congress actually encouraged private sector police companies to replace law enforcement on the state and local level by coercing a new police protection insurance that would tack on a fee to citizens for the use of police protection. That means they would charge you. See, this move was justified by having citizens pay for the police to be called to scenes as a communal service. That is a contractual, and just as any other good or service that you pay for. Now, as a customer, the citizen would tell a 911 dispatch their insurance information for payment purposes to be billed after the police were deployed to the scene or services rendered, which only leads one to believe that if you didn't have this insurance and people were shooting at your house outside, they wouldn't come.
I feel like Han Solo, you're Dan Kenobi, we're in that fucked up bar.
Turning local police departments into private security firms that provide services to the public was the scheme behind privatizing law enforcement, okay? It's all about making more money. Turning it into private security firms, private sector police companies that would receive government funds or be owned by the government itself. That's exactly what they're after.
Have you lost your mind?
Under state government contract, okay, private security firms perform law enforcement services. Now, with legislative bodies on both the state and congressional level supporting this change, private corporations enter into contractual agreements with city councils to provide armed security patrol. Just as a rent-a-cop is hired to secure private property, local police departments are masked rent-a-cops, okay? They're hired by local government to secure their city. This fact has been hidden from public scrutiny and has added to the blending of social perception of what the police are and what they do, that police services are able to function without question. Okay, now at the same time, citizens are expected to pay fees for these services that were once inherent to life in a structured town or city. In early 2012, the Department of Homeland Security released a report entitled Homeland Security Intelligence: Next Steps in Evolving the Mission, which outlined, in part, on how to redirect efforts of the federal government from international terrorism towards homegrown terrorists and build a DHS-controlled police force agency that would control all cities and towns through the use of local police departments. Police state.
And here we go.
A DHS maintains that the threat grows more localized, which necessitates the militarization of local police in major cities in the U.S. and the training of staff from local agencies to make sure that oversight is restricted to the federal government. And private corporations, folks, have been parading as public servants, okay? Policing cities and towns across America without the knowledge of the average citizen for quite some time. Although they wear the same badges as local police departments of the past, these private security firms are not there to uphold peace or to enforce any laws and city ordinances. Just like any other corporation, they seek out opportunities to collect revenue for the benefit of the city that hired them. That is where we're at. I can't explain to you just how frustrating and horrible it is to know that we have been being lied to. Do some research, look it up. If your local police department is actually a private nonprofit corporation, find out if they're in dissolution, because if it's already been dissolved, you need to bring it to the attention of the public, because they've been getting ripped off. Any tickets, citations, and court costs, everything can be paid back to you or to the people that it has been taken from under a dissolved corporation that by law is not allowed to practice business. And if they're a non-for-profit corporation, still a corporation, it's business that they do. The business is being police officers and going out and doing police work.
You're a great American.
If they're dissolved, they're not allowed to practice business by law. Their business cannot be practiced by law. So anything that they have done since it's been in dissolution, since they don't want to tell the public and people don't know about this,
fucking fascist
is all illegal.
Do you see what happens, Larry, when you fuck a stranger in the ass?
We need more people to pay attention to the laws out there and pay attention to what's going on. This, I read today, come from Edward Johnston. I heard him on Guerrilla Radio. I was fortunate enough to, it was either on Guerrilla Radio or it was on the Truth Train with Liberty Lisa. Either way, I heard it and I got to listen to him, and speak with him for a couple minutes. And, he accepted my friendship on Facebook, so that's real awesome because he posts this brilliant stuff that we don't know. And this is laws. The laws that he has done and shown and just getting the truth out to people. And that's what it's all about. We've got to get together, start spreading the information, and teach each other.
So let's make the most of our time together, shall we?
Don't teach someone, look, this is the way you have to do it. Look, this is the law that was written, and this is how these people are subverting it. We're in charge. We are the people who pay the taxes and do all the work. We're the ones in charge, not the 545.
You look like the vermin-ridden son of a bitch you are.
I've got to cut this episode short today, folks.
You dick!
We've got so much going on here at the Albino Raccoon Studios. We're going to be, we're looking into switching over our format from being on YouTube to, we might possibly continue to stay on YouTube and just broadcast our stuff there, but also of going to Blog Talk Radio. My calls out to the public and to people to get a co-host or anyone in here that would like to debate me or, has fallen upon deaf ears or chicken-hearted ears, one of the two. Except for one. And this person I didn't even ask. She would be the last person I would ever ask to help me host a show. But she's the only one with enough balls to come on and talk these politics and these events of the day and what's going on. That's my mother. So, to all my fellow patriots out there that I've seen our Facebook page and I've asked to contribute, and I've not wanted to contribute or not wanted to become part of this liberty movement. And it's not just becoming part of the liberty movement. It's not, we're not, you don't want your name put on there, don't put your name on. You don't want your face put on there, don't put your face on there. I don't care. You can have a little Charlie Brown thing. Say, my name is Blee Blee Blee, and I come from Blee 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 land. I am a fan of the Last Voice for Land. Here's my take on this. Here's my take on that. But no, nobody wants to do that. Nobody can take 5 minutes. Sometimes I spend 8-10 hours just editing through sound bites and equipment and everything else. We'll spend hours here at the studio trying to get things right. Okay? Doing research and all that other stuff. All we're asking you to do is video yourself or audio record yourself. It doesn't even have to be video. Audio record yourself making a statement, making your opinion, or getting a question out there if you got it. Send it to us, and we've offered to put it up. Nobody wants to do that, so we're going to be switching. We're looking to go to Blog Talk Radio so we can actually have callers as well. And my mother is quite the liberal, line voting Democrat. So her political views and mine differ quite greatly. And my mother, how can I put this nicely? I love my mom. I do. I know I love her to death. Anybody got something foul to say about her, better say it to me first. And guess what? I don't answer very nicely. But Mom likes to tip a couple back every now and then. So it should be interesting to make for good radio, and I really hope that this show's growing more and more. We're getting more exposure through our friends Austin Thomas and Liberty Lisa at Guerrilla Radio and Freedomizer Radio. And I'm getting more publicity, talking to other people around, and pushing this show more. And the show is not about me, nor has it ever been. It's always been about information, getting the word out to people, talking, letting you know. I'm not here to tell you that I'm better than you. I'm not here to tell you that my way is the best. I'm here to tell you stuff that they're not telling you. Now, both my parents, I talk politics with them, both of them think I'm crazy. I'm a conspiracy theorist. Mom and Pops, I keep saying, when the conspiracies keep coming true, they aren't theories. And you need to start paying attention to it, because this 5-4-5 are getting more blatant, and they just don't care, because they know that 3/4 of the rest of the country don't care. That's what this show's about, changing it. That's the change we bring. Changing it back to where people actually care about our freedoms again. Because a lot of people out there don't. Cutting this video short, we'll talk to you again on the last voice for Liberty Network.
8675309. 8675309. 8675309. I got it. I got your number on the wall. I got it for a good time call. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309. Jenny, who can I turn to? 8675309. For the price of a dime, I can always turn to you. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309. 8675309.
Whatever happened to the Constitution? During the past 4 months, we have seen the breakdown of government as we have known it in America. In June, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled the police officers may lawfully break down the door of an apartment or home on the basis of what they or their dogs are smelling from inside the home. This is the same excuse for breaking down doors that governments in Eastern Europe used for generations, and we fought a Cold War against them for doing so. It might happen to your neighbor, it might happen to your children, it might not ever happen to anyone you know. But who would want to live in a society where that can happen? Sadly, we all live in such a place. It is here. In April of this year, while the Congress was on its spring break, President Obama announced that he was bombing military targets in Libya in order to prevent a humanitarian disaster. He claimed that our troops were not engaging in hostilities or war because none of them have been killed and because all of their killing is being done from the air and not from the ground. He said that it would be over in weeks, not months. It is now August. The United States military is still there. The killings from the sky have continued. Congress has behaved like a potted plant and has done nothing to curtail this, even though under the Constitution, only Congress can start wars. Yesterday, while the Congress was on its summer break, President Obama announced that he will decide in which states an ill-advised and no doubt unconstitutional Bush-era law called No Child Left Behind will be enforced, and in which states it will not. He has no such power under the Constitution. Think about it. How can your federal rights and benefits be enhanced or degraded by where you live and at the whim of the president? Last week, the Congress, after months of wrangling over the government's debt, agreed to permit the president to borrow another $2.4 trillion, but decided not to decide what strings should be attached to it. Instead, the Congress delegated away its powers to a super Congress that will deliberate in secret and send recommendations back to the real Congress. And that Congress, without any debate or amendments, will simply vote yes or no. As a result of this crazy move, the stock market has nearly crashed. It has lost 15% of its net worth off its highest value this year, and the government's credit score has gone south. What the heck is going on here? Does anyone remember the Constitution? The police can only search and seize a home when a judge, not their noses or their dogs, authorize them to do so. The president is supposed to enforce all the laws equally and upon everyone, not subjectively and against his enemies or for his friends or for his political needs. And the Congress is supposed to deliberate on everything in public, with robust debate amongst all 535 members so that we know what they've said and what they're doing. Not just 12 of them in secret. And how can a problem caused by too much borrowing and spending possibly be cured by more borrowing and spending? The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is the baseline for all governmental behavior. Its guarantees must be honored or they are worthless, and its protections must be afforded, and its procedures must be followed, or we will have no law. And where there is no law, there will be chaos. America, I am sorry to say, chaos is coming. As I speak, there is chaos in England, in Ireland, in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, and in Greece. There is chaos here in our stock market. There is chaos here in our economy. There is chaos here in our culture. There is chaos here in the federal government. The chaos is because the people we have sent to the government have ignored the supreme law of the land. Instead of following the Constitution, they have attempted to change it. Instead of long-term values, they have opted for short-term gain and quick fixes. Instead of openness, they have given us secrecy. If the Constitution means what it says, it compels freedom and openness and restrains the government and compels it to obey its own laws. If its provisions are not upheld when they pinch as well as when they comfort, what is the sense of having a Constitution in the first place?
I'd like to take everything you got, girl, spread the wealth around. If I was your president for a second term, chill out at the golf course, watch the country burn, hang out with my homies, we'll see and breathe, chill on occupiers, yelling corporate greed, yelling corporate greed. Subsidized, mesmerized, Julia, look in my eyes, girl, you need a government to carry you through life, maxing out your EBT on diamonds and pearls. Shh, I'm on the phone with my composite girls. Handouts, you could have a handout. GOP stand down, dollar bills stand out. Complain all you want, I don't need to look good, cause you know that I'm a front for the Muslim Brotherhood. I changed my mind on the gay love thing. Campaign ain't free, you know. If I was your president for a second term, chill out at the golf course, watch the country burn, hang out with my homies, we'll see and breathe, chill on occupiers, yelling corporate greed, yelling corporate greed. If I was your prez, there'd only be one brand. Jimmy Tomo, and I'll be calling you my subjects. If I was your prez, we'll have utopia. Just ignore the fire on my life. Turn, chill out at the golf course, watch the country burn, hang out with my homies, we'll see and breathe, chill on occupiers, yelling corporate greed, yelling corporate greed.
Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? What if Democrats and Republicans were two wings of the same bird of prey? Tonight, what if elections don't matter? What if elections were actually useful tools for social control? What if they just provided the populace with meaningless participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes? What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners? What if there's no such thing as public opinion, because every thinking person has opinions that are uniquely his own? What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them? What if the whole purpose of the Democratic and Republican parties was not to expand voters' choices, but to limit them? What if the widely perceived differences between the two parties was just an illusion? What if the heart of the government policy remains the same no matter who's in the White House? What if the heart of government policy remains the same no matter what the people want? What if those vaunted differences between Democrat and Republican were actually just minor disagreements? What if both parties just want power and are willing to have young people fight meaningless wars in order to enhance that power? What if both parties continue to fight the war on drugs just to give bureaucrats and cops bigger budgets and more jobs? What if government policies didn't change when government leaders did? What if no matter who won an election, government stayed the same? What if government was really a revolving door for political hacks bent on exploiting the people once they're in charge? What if both parties supported welfare, war, debt, bailouts, and big government? What if the rhetoric that candidates displayed on the campaign trail was dumped after electoral victory? What if Barack Obama campaigned as an anti-war, pro-civil liberties candidate and then waged senseless wars while assaulting your rights that the Constitution is supposed to protect? What if George W. Bush campaigned on a platform of non-intervention and small government and then waged a foreign policy of muscular military intervention and a domestic policy of vast government borrowing and growth? What if Bill Clinton declared that the era of big government was over, but actually just convinced Republicans like Newt Gingrich that they can get what they want out of big government too? What if the Republicans went along with it? What if Ronald Reagan spent 6 years running for president, promising to shrink the government, but then the government grew while he was in the White House? What if, notwithstanding Reagan's ideas and cheerfulness and libertarian rhetoric, there really was no Reagan revolution at all? What if all this is happening again? What if Rick Santorum is being embraced by voters who want small government, even though Senator Santorum voted for the Patriot Act, for an expansion of Medicare, and for raising the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars? What if Mitt Romney is being embraced by voters who want anyone but Barack Obama, but they don't realize that Mitt Romney might as well be Barack Obama on everything from warfare to welfare? What if Ron Paul is being ignored by the media, not because, as it claims, he's unappealing or unelectable, but because he doesn't fit into the pre-manufactured public opinion mold used by the establishment to pigeonhole the electorate and create the so-called narrative that drives media coverage of elections? What if the biggest difference between most candidates was not substance, but style? What if those stylistic differences were packaged as substantive ones to reinforce the illusion of a difference between Democrats and Republicans? What if Mitt Romney wins and ends up continuing most of the same policies that Barack Obama promoted? What if Barack Obama's policies, too, are merely extensions of those from George W. Bush? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we could make elections matter again? What if we could do something about this? From New York, defending freedom every night of the week.
When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. The utmost manifestation of love and devotion to America is today, as it always has been, resistance of tyranny.